Well, earlier today here on Newzroom Afrika, Channel 405, we would have seen the Western Cape Premier Alan Winde confirming that he's fired the province's Community Safety MEC Fritz after an investigation confirmed Fritz was guilty of using his power to harass young women. The investigation said he had abused his position, had objectified young women, and that he'd used alcohol to do it while removing them from their comfort zones. You remember the claims that are against him. Brett Heron is a Member of Parliament for the Good Party. He's also the Secretary-General. He joins us now. Brett, good afternoon to you. You had called for action against Fritz. He's now been fired. He's resigned as well from the Democratic Alliance, I understand. Did the Premier, Alan Winde, in the Western Cape, follow the right procedure here?
Well, good afternoon, Stephen. I think that the question first of all, we must welcome the fact that a sex guest has been removed from office. The question that arises for us is why the decision could not have been made when the allegations first surfaced. And I think there are some unaccounted for questions that need to be addressed. The former leader of the DA in the Western Cape spoke about a culture of sex for jobs that existed within the Western Cape government, and we need to hear from the Premier how this is going to be addressed. This case against Albert Fritz is a sex for jobs case, and there are obviously people in the administration who need to account for how these young women were placed within the employment of the Western Cape government, because an MEC can't place anybody in a position in the administration. They don't have those powers. So there must have been some collaboration or assistance. And I think if the government of the Western Cape is to rid itself of this sex for jobs culture, as was described by the previous leader of the DA in the province, then the Premier needs to go further than just dismissing Albert Fritz and needs to understand how this culture is being implemented.
Are you suggesting then that if an MEC was able to do this, he wasn't doing it alone? There must have been other people who are still employed by the Western Cape provincial government who are doing it with them?
Look, Albert Fritz was an MEC for 11 years. That's, I think, one of the questions that remains unanswered is how this went undetected, if it did go undetected for 11 years. But the offering of jobs in return for sex requires at least senior managers in the administration, placing these young women in vacant positions or creating positions for them. So that can't happen without the assistance of some senior managers in the administration. And so this investigation cannot end with Albert Fritz resigning, and that's the end of the matter. There is a sex for jobs culture in the Western Cape provincial government. And if it is to be stamped out and eradicated, then those who are collaborating or assisting wittingly or unwittingly actually need to be identified, and we need to understand how this happened, how these people were placed in positions, and why nobody realized what the connection was to the minister and to his conduct.
It's a really interesting thing, because what really should happen next, perhaps, there's a police investigation. I'm not aware of criminal charges that have been laid against Fritz. Do you believe criminal charges should be lodged against him?
As we said earlier today, as a sex for jobs scandal, criminal charges should be laid. And the Premier, who has all the evidence, has the obligation, I think, to do that. And we have called for him to do that. I understand that the ANC, for example, made an inquiry with the Western Cape Provincial Commissioner, but no official case has been opened. But this is a sex for jobs scheme, and as such, it is a matter that should be investigated for criminal charges. And I think there's an obligation on the Premier to lay those criminal complaints or to forward the evidence to the South African Police Services. But as I say, also to take steps to eliminate this culture from his provincial government.
The entire complication around all of this, and I think it's correct, and I think we've seen other cases like this, is that everyone involved, I think correctly, wants to protect the women, I say alleged victims, but maybe we should just call them victims, maybe. And that's, in the end, the complication, because I'm not going to say there's a duty on them. That may be pushing it too far, maybe unfair. But if they were to lay charges, everything would become a lot simpler. Would you, let me choose my words carefully, would you encourage them to lay charges? And I mean, I say that when you and I are both men and these are women who are victims.
Yeah, look, it is a difficult decision to make, and it's a difficult call to make. I would encourage them to lay criminal charges. And when this first arose, and I mean, I have received information that I would like to hand to the police if they do conduct an investigation. The first thing I did was to reach out to two centers that assist women who are in these positions, non-profit organizations, to ask them to provide legal and psychosocial support to these women so that they can come forward and feel protected, independent of government and of politics. And so I'm encouraging women who have experienced this within the Western Cape Provincial Government to approach the Sarki Bachman Centre for Women, who have agreed to assist any woman who has experienced this, both legally and psychosocially. And I think, you know, if we're going to stamp this out and eradicate it, it will take some brave women to step forward.
Brett Heron, thank you very much indeed. Member of Parliament for the Good Party, third Secretary General as well.